Hello everyone, Ceri Griffiths here, or Ceri the Crafter. Now, this is a long awaited for video, or a long overdue video to be honest with you. I was planning to do this one in July, but in July I did the July postcard play challenge, which was a lot of work, but a good thing. It was wonderful to do. Now, we're going to jump to the gel plate in about 5 minutes, so bear with me for a second here because I just want to explain why I'm doing this. Partially because of postcard play in July and partially because of other creators, we have inspired others to take on gel printing or gel plate work. And because I'm a content creator, obviously I'm easily reached in comments and things like that. And a lot of the newbies who have started out have purchased their 5x7 or whichever size they want to do with their gel press or gel plate, whatever they're using. And they've started to do gel printing and then they've said, oh, I can't do it, I haven't got wet strength tissue. And a lot of people have got quite despondent about this and felt that you can only do gel printing with wet strength tissue. Poppycock, no. For years, I have done it on gift wrap tissue. I know Frau Davies in New Zealand has used cheap dollar store gift wrap tissue for a very long time before she moved to using wet strength tissue as well. However, it is a completely different creature to use if you're using wet strength and you want to use gift wrap. I don't want anyone to get despondent. It's part of a process. Those of us who have access to wet strength tissue like to use it because of its versatility, its endurance, its strength. It's wet strength, and we're using wet mediums and mixed media. However, if you understand how to use gift wrap, you can do a lot of the same things that you can do with wet strength tissue. So this is what this video is from me to you about. Now, I am by no means an expert. I'm quite good. I've been doing it for several years now. I know my way around a gel plate. I know how to pull gel prints. I'm constantly learning from other inspirational artists, and I know other artists out there who use a gel plate, and I'm not going to start naming people because there's far too many of them to start naming. They all have their own different personal preferences and takes on what you use and how you use it. And I have heard several other artists go, oh, you simply must have wet strength tissue. You can't do this if you don't have wet strength tissue. Not sure I 100% agree. So what I've done is my grocery store sells gift wrap tissue. There you go. I think this was like, it wasn't very much, let's put it that way. I then went on to the internet and I bought a pack of A4 gift wrap tissue, and that's what we're going to use in this video. Now, I'm going to replicate a lot of the techniques you see artists and myself create with wet strength. I'm going to show you how to use them with gift wrap. On top of that, I'm going to fail at a few things. I'm going to purposely fail at a few things just so you can see what to expect and learn the reasons why it didn't work. There are ways for doing it. I did the postcard challenge, and I want to say, barring one strip of wet strength tissue, I only used gift wrap tissue for all of the stuff I put onto my postcards. If you look at the prep videos, I did all of my acrylic paint stamping onto gift wrap tissue. I then used matte gel medium or glues to attach those to postcards. So you can see there was a lot in that you might have picked up on anyway. Anyway, so I think it's time we jumped on. There's only going to be one piece of wet strength tissue in this whole video, and that's going to be the first thing because I want to show you a side-by-side comparison of one technique, which is the most important thing to have in your mind when you're using gift wrap tissue. So let's flip this sucker over and show you what I'm talking about, and hopefully you will walk away from here with a little more understanding of how you can utilize just gift wrap tissue. So here we are topside. I've only got these down because obviously I'm dealing with white tissue paper on a whiteboard. Not the best of viewing options. So I've got 2 pieces of wet strength tissue here, which I'm going to put to one side. And actually, just so you can follow it, I'm just going to put WS on those, just so we don't get them mixed up anywhere along. I need 2 of them to actually show you what I need to do next. So this is the pack I ordered on the internet. Let's see, pull this out. Now I'm assuming that the one I bought on the internet is probably slightly stronger than the one I bought from the grocery store. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times in my life. Right, let's just cut this in such a way that I can get smaller pieces from it. Right, let's cut this down here. Now I'm only going to be using an 8x10 gel plate, and I'm only using an 8x10 because you can gel print and pick up with gift wrap tissue on a 12x12, although you have to know exactly what you're doing and you have to work quickly, even quicker than with a small plate. I don't usually use a 12x12 when I'm doing gift wrap tissue. Okay, just so you're aware, you can do it. I know I've seen others do it. I just find it's a little bit stressful. Let's just put it that way. Right, so just breaking these down into roughly, for me, it's an A4 size. If you're in America, it's possibly letter size is what you'd be aiming for. Now, when I create things on tissue paper, I create them normally to be added to collage or other pieces. So, right, let's take this out of the way as well. Got tissue everywhere here. So, if I'm going to look at tissue next to tissue, so this is the tissue that I bought on the internet, and this is the tissue I bought from the grocery store. Looking at them, just seeing the transparency, I would say they're pretty much the same product. Okay, so I'm going to put that to one side for a second and pull in one of our wet strengths. Now, the easiest way to tell wet strength besides putting water on it is to tear it. So if I tear this, it tears easily in one direction. If I tear it this way, it will not tear in one direction. Okay? Wet strength tissue only likes to be torn in one direction, whereas gift wrap tissue is a bit of a random tear, whatever you do, but it will tear. And I would very often use a ruler to tear it, as I would a tear ruler, because you can see I will get a rough edge here, but if I just get a regular ruler and hold it down, once it's started, it will tear in a straight line. If I get the wet strength tissue, it'll tear straight in that direction, but it's harder to tear in the opposite direction. It will always veer off. Right, now I've made a complete and utter mess. Let's get rid of these. Yeah, I know it seems a bit wasteful, but for this experiment, guys, I'm quite happy to be just throwing stuff away to give me enough room to work with. So we now have our other piece of wet strength tissue paper, and we have our gift wrap tissue. Now, what we're about to do now is possibly the most important thing you have to keep in your mind when you're deciding how to use gift wrap tissue. Wet strength tissue, bottle of water. Gift wrap tissue, bottle of water. Now, wet strength tissue, I can pick it up, I can give it a bit of a tug, it's not going anywhere. Once this dries, it'll go back to normal. Gift wrap tissue, I can pick it up, but you can see it just falls to pieces. If this got wet and then dried back again, it would still have some of its strength, but I found that once gift wrap tissue has been wet, it will very often not go back 100% to what it was before. A bit of a clean up here, because I don't need that sorted. Right, so that was the most important thing to remember is the amount of liquid that you use determines how much destruction it will do to gift wrap tissue. As you can see, the endurance of the wet strength tissue is the reason why a lot of people using a gel plate will buy wet strength. So now I've pulled out paints, and what I've done is I've basically pulled out reds and yellows and oranges just to stay within one family, so then I'm not concentrating, oh, is this a complementary, is this not a complement, you get what I mean. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to put paints down. The paints I'm using are pretty much going to be plastic tubes of paint, or they might be like craft tubes of paint or bottles of paint. Those are the sort of things I'm going to use. Like this is an Iron Reevely. It's a very fluid paint, but it does dry very quickly. So the trick is just to get your paints down, and you need to have a reasonably thin layer. I would say don't go ahead and do really thick layers, because if you do really thick layers, you're going to end up saturating the paper, the tissue, before you can pull it up. So right, coming in, taking my tissue. Now, because it's gift wrap, it's going to have a line in it, so I tend to work from the bottom upwards or side to side. Get in there, just give it a quick rub, and then I'm going to pull it off. Now, we've got ourselves a print. Do not try to print anything else on this until this is dried, and it's not going to take long to dry. The reason that is because the fibers are now moist. If I then put it back on, the extra moisture is going to come through, and this is then becoming saturated, and it will tear. So we're going to make a couple of those, and we're going to play around with different colors, because I need some that are dry-ish, or as dry as I can get them within the time I'm using them, just so that I'm working with tissue paper that you've actually seen me produce. So put that on there. So let's do another background. Again, I'm just going to be lifting off. Now, if you've got a dirty plate and you think, oh, I'm going to clean that plate up by putting a layer of paint down, leaving it sit and then lifting it with more tissue, if it's gift wrap tissue, it's hardly likely to do that. The paint adhering to the plate is probably going to be stronger than the tissue paper you're using to pull it off with. Okay? And to pull it off, I mean, we're producing prints. To pull it off, you need a sticky paint. You need a paint that's going to grip the paint that's on the plate, and the strength of that paint could easily outweigh the strength of the gift wrap tissue if, oh, that's all blocked up, if it's moist in any way. So as you can see, it's all doable. I even do image transfers onto gift wrap tissue paper on purpose, because I want to make sure that if I then stick it down to another surface, it's as transparent as it can be. Now, I'm looking at this and I know this is a pretty thick covering of paint for me to use gift wrap tissue. This is about as thick as I would go personally, because I know that for me, if I go thicker than this, I'm not going to be able to get anything off the plate. See, I've already torn it there, and that's because there was a lot of paint on here, which really made this really wet. But I don't mind if it's being turned into collage stuff, that's fine. Also, the action of rubbing it with my hand is another thing that could potentially tear the paper. So I'm just going to try and get a ghost print off this one, because we did have a lot on here. Right, I'm glad it did that. See, we've got a crease here. These creases, or these folds, if you rub against them, that fold could tear. Okay, so just be a little... I look like I'm pressing, I'm just gently rubbing my hand over the top. And then I tend to pull along the plate to remove it. Right, so therefore I've got a secondary one, but you saw me go slower when I pulled it off, because I'm trying to, it's like the surface tension of water. I'm trying to make sure I'm working with it. I don't pull directly up because that puts more stress on the section that's attached to the gel press or gel plate. I pull it towards myself and it folds back on itself. So that's another one. Right, I'm going to do one more because I've got a few things I want to do, guys. So let's just stick some of this down. And let's throw some colour into this one. What's this one? Yellow oxide. I don't use yellow oxide very often. So again, little bits of paint. Now I can already tell when I'm brayering. Can you see this puckering on the brayer? If I've got puckering on the plate, that means I've got quite a bit of paint on here. And it also tells me of the strength of the paint. And so far we've only used gift wrap because we're only going to use gift wrap. But it is very much put it down, pick it up. It's a bit like using some rice papers. You need to put it down and pick it up again. Now this one is pretty much dry. It's the first one we did. So I'm going to come in and take a chance. Now I'm pressing very gently now because I know the fibers in the tissue have already got moisture in them. This time I'm going to fold it back on itself and gently pull it towards myself. And it should, and did, lift off quite a bit on the plate just because it was a ghost print. Right, I think next we need to talk about how to use a stencil on here. So what we would normally do, or say what normally gets done is you put a layer of paint down, you lay a stencil over, oh, it's the same colour. No, I must like that colour. You put the stencil over the top and you clean the paint out from beneath it. The trouble with that method is when you come to gift wrap tissue is the longer you leave it on there, the more the moisture is weakening the fibres at the edges of the pattern. So I'm going to get a bit of kitchen roll, kitchen towel, whichever you want to call it. Now, traditionally, if you're using this and then pulling the colour through it, you would put a slightly thicker layer of paint down. So just have to be aware of that, guys. If you're going to do this, you still have to remember thinness of paint. Thinness of paint equates to quicker drying paint. Okay, now there are paint extenders out there that you can put into your paints to make them dry slower. So I've got that on there. Get a sheet of tissue. Now, yes goes over the top. Press it down and I'm going to make a wad of this. Now, press, don't rub for a start, and be quick about it. Press where you can see the pattern is. There's no need to press anywhere else, it doesn't matter. But the longer I leave this, the more likely it is to tear. So you can see that this takes a little bit more time. Now, some would say I could lay another piece of paper over the top and lift it off that way, and yes, you could. The trouble is, I'm still pressing down onto a wet surface. Right, I think that's pretty much okay. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this tore, but I'm hoping it doesn't. But you can still lift off gift wrap tissue paper, guys. You can do it with gift wrap. You just have to make sure that these aren't so thick with paint that by the time you pressed it all down, it then becomes sodden and won't lift. So we've now got a print underneath here, so there's no reason why I can't just lift this off here and put this on here. And I forgot to smooth the creases out, but you know what? It's practice time. Now you actually have paint on the underside of your stencil, okay? If you're quick, you can lift it off there again. I'm saying quick because you do not want to leave anything with paint too long on tissue because it will stick. It gives you something of interest. Right, let's lift this off because this has been on here long enough for me. Now I'm gently, gently letting it pull up. Now you will see here, we haven't got all of the paint out from between all of this, and that's because I was having to work quickly. If I was actually doing this with wet strength tissue, I could have taken considerable time and got all of that out of there. It takes practice, guys. It does take practice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and try and pick this up because we've got it here. Why wouldn't I? And I think I'm just going to take a little bit of white. Only a little bit, mind. And I know it's going to turn pink because I've got stuff on my brayer. Now, remember, this time I'm using tissue that's already had paint on it and is already dry. The paint on the tissue paper has strengthened the tissue paper slightly. So it doesn't make it wet strength strong, but it certainly does give you something you can work with. Let's take this one out of the way. Again, I'm not going to leave it down. I wouldn't leave gift wrap tissue overnight or even for any extended period of time on tissue. Again, my point of view, you could know differently. I'm just trying to share with you what I have discovered. So we've got that on there. Let's see if I can just lift that off onto this book. So just trying to clean up stuff that's down there. So where are we up to? So we've got all of that done. So now what I want to do now is, we've talked about what you can do and how you can do it. What I would say now is, how can I get a good print onto my gift wrap tissue? If I keep saying wet strength, I apologize. I do mean gift wrap because that's the only tissue we're using here today. So what I would say is, if you want to transfer this pattern onto a piece of gift wrap tissue, the trick is to put the stencil down first and then put the paint through it. So let's pick up this one. Now you saw me pull this off. This is pretty much dry now. It is just doesn't take long to dry at all because of the nature of it. It's wet strength tissue. So I think we're going to come in. Let's see. What is this? That's pale lemon. I think that's opaque enough. I'm going to put it on the stencil itself. And as you can see, this is a used stencil. It's not a super duper new one that's actually clinging to the plate. And I'm going to brayer this out onto the stencil, aiming to get down into the stencil itself. So I'm using a little bit of pressure, but because I'm not using a huge amount of paint, don't forget it's going to be drying. Immediately that comes off, let's immediately come in and pop this down and give it a press. Now, I know this paper has been strengthened slightly by the fact that it's got a layer of paint on the back. Let's see if I can just brayer some of that pattern off onto my book over here. No, they did clean my stencil a little bit. So let's pull this off here. So this is how I would put a pattern onto here. Now, I actually chose the wrong colour paint. I should really have chosen something a lot more contrasty. But you can see I still have the pattern on there. So let's go in and do that again, showing you with this one. And actually just clean this brayer off so that I've not got paint on here that's going to colour up my white. Just because it's a lesson I want you to see for a start. I want you to see that it is possible to do these patterned papers. So I'm going to use white this time. And again, I tend to put my paint on the stencil, not into the holes. That should be enough. You need to have enough to go down into the holes of the stencil, but I prefer not to have so much that it makes it soaking wet. That's probably enough on that. Lift that off. So I've got a really good crisp image here. Let's come in with this one. Get it laying down roughly on there. I'm not registering it so it's perfectly lined up. I'm just eyeballing it, guys. Now, because I've got paint on here, I might be able to get an extra bit of paint on something else in here. Let's just see if I can just clean this off onto a page in here. So, oh, there you go. That's a nice page done. And as I know there's more on here, let's just put some onto this one as well. This is a great way to use up, you know, when you're actually making a journal and you've bought an old book just for the cover and you've got the block of, this is what I call a book block, the middle. This is a great way just to use up spare pages, guys. Right, now that has been down there quite a while, okay? There was quite a body of paint on there. So again, you have to be careful because it could easily tear where the wet paint is. Okay, we got away with it. As you can see, I now have a lovely piece of paper that's gift wrap tissue. I'm just going to put another one down right here because I think I can get another print of that. Now, have I got any more backgrounds left? I do have a background or two left, that's good. So you will find I'm feeling very confident because I use gift wrap quite often. If you're used to using wet strength and then you flip back to gift wrap, you're probably going to make a complete botch of a couple of prints before you get into the knowledge of how long to leave stuff down versus how much paint. There you go, so I got myself a second print out of that. Now, another thing I like to do, that's just, where are those sheets gone? You very often will see me mark making. And mark making is usually where I will put stuff directly onto the tissue from a gel plate, or put stuff onto a gel plate and then pick it up with tissue. So just know we're going to do a bit of that. So let's pull in this one. Not 100% dry, but actually it doesn't matter if this one's 100% dry because of the technique I'm going to use. So I've just pulled in a few mark making tools just so I've got something to play with. Let's come in with a bit of dark red. Just a little bit of that down there. So you could use foam stamps. I mean, I didn't pull any out, but you could have used foam stamps for this. So just picking this up, putting it down, gently lift it away. If you go tearing something up afterwards, you're going to find that you're going to have a problem, because if you tear something up quickly, you're more likely to actually injure the tissue itself. Right, let's change that to a slightly different colour. Let's add a bit of orange to it. Let's see what that does to, I think that might have been either a rose pink or a magenta. I'm not looking at colours at the moment, guys. I'm just getting stuff down. So this is just a group of the innards from washi tape. About to have seen me do them before. Now, thing is, when you do something like this, is it's almost like using a cookie cutter. So you have to be careful how you lift it up, because it'll want to tear where that ring is. Actually, I just want to put one more piece in there. So just as with everything I've said before, just be aware what is the moisture content and how are you using it. I'm just putting some of this on the book behind me. That's that one done. You can do the same thing, of course, with a larger roll. This is from the inside of a duct tape. Let's see if I can pull in something just to pick up this off here, because we're not going to waste it. So see, you can definitely do stuff like this, guys. More of that on there would be helpful. Let's put that back up there. So, right, so mark making, anything that's a mark making tool is easily amended to use with this. So I think we need to pull in, let's get some of this. Right, this is that heavy body paint again. This is the indigo blue one. This one dries so quickly you don't even need to blink. Okay, so just be aware that if you're using heavy bodied, it normally dries quickly. So get on it is what I'm trying to say. It's going to grip the tissue. Be careful of it. It's gripping the tissue. Let's just put one more little bit down here because I like things in threes. Right, I'm just going to put some more onto my book pages. The book pages, by the way, I use for collage, or I use them in my art journal, anything like that. It just gives me extra pages that pretty much are free as far as I'm concerned. Right, this is probably dry by now. It kind of is, so I'm going to pick it up as a whole. So as you can see, we are making one of those backgrounds, guys. We're definitely doing what we set out to do, although in a different way, because if this was wet strength tissue, I might have been doing this all on the gel plate and then pulling it all in one go. Right, back into where was I up to? So I've got this mental list of things I wanted to do. I want to make sure I've done them all. Okay, right, let's pull in a foam stamp. Let's use this one, the dots one. I like the dots one. So I'm going to take this out of the way because as far as I'm concerned, there's enough on here. This will fully dry and I can use it. Let's come in with this one now. Now that needs a bit of a clean up. And this brayer needs a bit of a clean up as well because I want to do the dots in white and I don't want to contaminate my brayer on my paint. And then I want to do one more thing after this, which is something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy doing all of it, but you know what I mean. This is something I really enjoy doing. So this is a foam stamp. It's one of my own designs. I think this might be called Sketchy Dots or something like this. So coming down, tapping it down, making sure I've got a coating of paint on there, and just coming in, pressing it. Now again, it's going to want to suction to the tissue. So when you pick it up, just be aware, guys, hold the tissue. This is the one we tore. Just be aware that you can't just rip something back off because you are more than likely going to tear it. So as you can see, it mark makes, it works perfectly. Just get some of this cleaned off onto there. I think I've got enough to do the other one as well. I kind of have, I've got paint all over my bookcase now. So let's put some of it on there. So as you can see, I'm just building stuff up on book pages, guys. Let's put that to one side. Now, this is the pull that we did that didn't work very well. There's no reason why I can't come in and quickly clean up a plate that I've already got. Okay, but as you feel it's dragging on the plate, just be aware if it's gripping the plate, it's airing towards tearing. Okay, but again, building a background. And I'm back again. So one of the things I really like to do with gift wrap tissue is image transfer. I always make sure my tissue is ready to go. I don't bother whether it's the rough side or the smooth side whenever I use tissue. I just use tissue. What I do is I get fashion magazines and I use the pages from a fashion magazine to actually take an image out. So I'm going to try and take this one, and I've got this lady who's got far too many legs. We're going to just put it down just to show that it can be done with gift wrap tissue. Actually, let's just tear this off here because I don't need the wording. You can gift wrap, you can image transfer words. It works perfectly well. I'm just not doing that today. So I'm going to use black, and I'm using a tube of black. The trick with image transfer, whether you're using wet strength or regular strength, is you don't need a thick layer of paint. So you will get a feel for this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So as you can see, hopefully you can see, you can just about see through that. That's probably a little bit too much, to be honest. Right, then I'm going to put my image down. I'm going to give it a bit of a press. Now remember, we've got our wet strength tissue is already, not our wet strength, our gift wrap tissue is all ready to go. So some people say give it a count of 10. I just go by instinct. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, guys. There's lots of different variants in this. As you can see, there she is. So I'm going to come in, put this down, and I intend getting rid of the creases, so I'm going to gently work from the bottom upwards. Now, whenever I work with an image transfer, after I pull the image, I will normally tear around it before I put it into an art journal or something. Depends on how much I've used. Like this area here that you can see is black. Obviously, that would be an issue for me, but I could always stamp over that or stencil over it. Right, again, not leaving it on there for long. Come on, gently, gently pulling this off. And I would class that as a great success. That's a beautiful image. Why did it work? It's a fashion magazine. It's a high contrast image. It's given me what I needed. Now for me, I might just use that much of it. I might use that much. Not keen on what happened down here at the legs, but you know what? That's a good enough image for me. I'm quite happy to keep that. And I'm back. And I found this image, which I thought, right, that's a nice one. It's high enough contrast. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's image transfer is purely happenstance. It happens or it doesn't. You can do as much as you like, but sometimes the image transfer people are just not with you. So I did change my mind, however. I thought she would look really funky on this background. Do you think? Let's lift you off. Yeah, I think that would look funky enough. Let's put her on there, shall we? So again, a little bit of black paint, not a huge amount, remember. You don't want to be brayering on and brayering off forever. But you need enough on the plate to actually hold the image. And by holding the image, I mean for the toner to resist the paint. So you're looking for an even coating. I'd like this one to work because it'd be nice to finish on a high. Now, if it's too thick a layer of paint, bray some off. Last little bit. Let's flip this over. So let's do the count to 10 thing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, I don't normally count. I normally just use instinct, but that'll just show you that's what people do use. And we've got some dots on this one, but you know what? They might fit quite well with what we already have on the plate. So let's just pop you down on top of there. I don't think I've got it even, but there you go. Right, let's just see what we've got as a finished piece. Now, this is a good example of I didn't rub out all of the bubbles, and that's why there's whiter patches on there and there's darker patches on the image itself. So we've got her on there. Not the most amazing image, but you know, I can see her. So just examples, guys. As I said, it's not always perfect. We just need to work with what we've got. So let's move this out the way a bit and take a look at what we did achieve in this printing session. So first of all, we did this sort of stuff, which we've created this all on gift wrap tissue. Prove that you can do those fabulous printed papers, and you can even mark make on top. This is just a background that's been mark made. This tear here, remember, this was where I had a fold in the paper and I was too vigorous and I tore the wet fibers. This was transferring paint through a stencil onto a gel plate, lifting the stencil and then picking it out. This was one I just used pretty much as a cleanup. And this was our fabulous lady that we actually ended up creating on. And you can always put a background on this, guys. Actually, why don't we do that? Right, let's do it really quickly, because I'm conscious that this is going a long, long time, and also it might make up for the fact that this one looks like this. So let's just have a bit of a clean. Give me 2 seconds, I need to get this plate cleaned. So that's the plate cleaned. So if I want to give this image some impact, I can always put the paint on the back of the image. Now the paint is going to show through, but I would say choose a more powerful paint. So I'm going to use, this is Cadmium Yellow Deep Hue, one of my favorites. If I get it out the bottle, there you go. And I think I want to mix it with maybe a little bit of orange. Let's put some of this red in it. It's a shuttle art. It's got a metallic to it. Metallic is not going to show through the other side, but it'll give it a bit of a pinky haze anyway. And then after we've done the back, you could always do the front. I mean, it's just all about getting colour down, guys, when it comes to stuff like this in the background. So that goes down over the top. Like you can see, I've now colorized that image. I still have to be careful. This is still gift wrap tissue, but because the layer of paint is on there, it's actually not a problem. Now I'm going to flip this over to that side to dry, and I'm just going to clean this up because there's one more element or secret or thing you can do to make that even more punchy. Oh, see, what did I tell you? Don't pull it too fast. And this is what happens if you pull it too fast, guys. Let me see if I can pick up a little bit more of that there. That can go, because these are scraps. These can be kept, these can be used. So I'm going to come in, and I'm now going to put down a layer of white. And the layer of white is by nature opaque. So that means anything that's put on top of it, if it was a transparent, you'll see the white through it. If it wasn't a transparent, it will give it a good background for the white to be shown through. So I'm going to be a little bit careful here because this is still wet, remember. I probably shouldn't be doing this with it this wet, but I'm just tapping this down because I don't want to rip my paper. So, but you can do it. As you can see, I haven't edited anything out of here. I've done all of this live. Now, this I can feel is incredibly wet. Okay? You don't have a choice. You're going to have to pull this up. So pull it up really gently towards you. Don't let the sides fold unless you absolutely have to. And then let's leave that upside down just for a second for it to dry off. And we'll just clean this off with another bit of tissue. Because you can see the paint was drying. But that's a good enough thing for me to mark make on. So don't be put off by gift wrap tissue, guys. It is purely about getting to know what you can and cannot do with the wetness of the paints you're using upon it. Now I know Froyle Davies has used spray inks on hers. We'll turn this over in a second. I just want to let this dry as much as I can before I actually flip it over for you. But I have seen Froyle Davies actually saturate gift wrap tissue before now, let it fully dry, and then used it in a collage work. So it's possible. It's all about knowing your mediums, knowing the strengths of the papers you're working upon, and then besides that, knowing the paints you're working with. It's confidence, guys. It's all about confidence. But please, as an absolute beginner, do not be put off by the fact that you do not have wet strength tissue, or maybe it's not within your budget, and it is something you have to be a considered purchase. As you can see, you can do it, explore. There's been many, many, many years of people using just gift wrap tissue paper. Just respect it. Know what you're doing. Do not get disheartened if things don't go the way you think they go. Sometimes you'd be surprised that they do. Sometimes you'd be surprised that they don't. So this was the print we just pulled. It's still a little wet, so I'm trying not to get it stuck to my work surface. But as you can see, I've turned a plain background into a pattern background. And all that's left for me to say is I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.